Hello, I'm Brooke here for ECTV. I'm sitting down with travel writer Yuval Ben-Ami. Hi, Yuval. How are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm well, thank you.
Good, thank you. So one of my first questions for you is, in beginning your expeditions of the Holy Land, I know it's your native land, did anything specific inspire you to start these journeys?
Well, first, I started my journeys away from it because I was confused by it. It's a confusing country. So confused that I did not know how to write about it. I did not know how to even experience it. And I went and traveled and lived abroad for 8.5 years, including here in Boston.
Wow.
And started writing about other countries. And only once I've had that done, I started traveling back. And I think it's that very experience of extreme complexity that motivated me to write. Until today, I don't have the place figured out. I'm still really working on it. The first book I published in Hebrew about my own country is called Wonderland. And it's, I was looking for absurdities, strange places, interesting conjunctions. And so that was a way to start exploring it. And since then, I've each time given myself a task and seen how the country plays out when I explore it according to the task. For example, circumnavigating it, or for example, staying up all night for 7 nights and traveling it at night. Or for example, going to tourist sites that are, written about and writing about them differently. And it just kept appearing more and more complex. But sometimes I figure out some things, yeah.
Did you have any studies in this area beforehand in school?
No, I studied art, but in a sense it's art. Travel writing is art. And I think of it as a form of literature that's legitimate. I remember after living here in the States, seeing there was a travel writing shelf in most bookshops. I came back home and I said, there isn't such a thing here. I need to develop it as a culture in Hebrew. But since then, I've been writing a lot in English as well. I think of travel as a tool, like the pencil, like the keyboard, to convey a place. And the person writing is in a way, the narrator can even be seen as a protagonist, but really I am a vehicle for the reader with which the reader can travel through the landscape. I also experience the landscape. I interact with it. I am confused by it. I am troubled by it. I am enchanted by it. And those are things that I want to convey to the reader as well, the relationship between me and an environment.
So you grew up in the environment you've been researching. Did you learn anything new that maybe you hadn't experienced before that you were surprised by?
All the time. I changed entirely my view of my own country. My political experience of it became so much more complex because I realized that as a child I was given one of many stories of this land. And it can be the tale of the country can be told in many different ways. In fact, it suffers a sort of a personality split. Depending on whom you are, you see it in a totally different way. And by traveling, you interact. And by interacting, I learned about totally different perspectives, totally different views of the same place.
Do you think this learning and this interaction helped you in your transition to radio and your music that you're producing as well?
Music, in a way, came before writing.
Okay.
And I still make music, but I try to listen more. Mm-hmm. And radio, I went and made radio in Israel that actually treats the rest of the world. So there was a program called, its name is in Hebrew and complicated, but it's for 2 hours each week, we spoke about other places in the world. But we would dedicate 1 hour to that actual place, say the Philippines, and the second hour to how that place is represented where we're from. And it was another way of unraveling how diverse and how complex my country is. There is a whole Filipino community, there is a whole Moroccan community, and bringing them into the studio is listening to them, listening to their music, hearing stories, and getting our questions answered that enriched me unbelievably.
Excellent. Now, what does it mean to you to be able to immerse yourself in these sort of new communities and then also the new aspect of your own? You're building relationships with these people you're learning about.
So I think the most meaningful relationship that I built over the past few years is as a tour guide. And the tours that I participate in are dual narrative. I am an Israeli guide, there's a Palestinian guide. And we call it dual narrative, but really it's multi-narrative. We are together through the whole tour, and we show the groups the country, and wherever we go, we can reflect on it from different angles. We don't necessarily represent our respective in-groups, but we know them. So we can tell how an ideological settler might think of this place, how someone who's a religious Muslim or a religious Christian might think of this place, etc. This is extremely rare to the point of hardly existent, because mostly when people come to the Holy Land, they hear one story and not the other, or if they're lucky, one story and the other is an afterthought or sort of an evil afterthought. The bad guys think that. Yeah. We reject the idea of bad guys. And we try to, and we are ourselves exploring with the groups that we show around and learning all the time while doing that from one another and from other people who speak to the groups.
Awesome. Well, it's been amazing to hear your story. I'm honored to see what you have done. And thank you for speaking with me.
Thank you very much.